Well, hello and welcome to our Q&A, and we're going to do another part of Papa O's bike trip to cross country to Three Rivers, Trois-Rivières. And so we're going to go ahead and get started with that. And welcome new subscribers. Thank you so much for that. And we do Q&As every Thursday at Rhymes, and we do DIYs every Friday for those that are new to my channel. We are coming over here to the screen. This is years ago. Papa O put this on a website, back when they had websites.
And this here,
he's got it all documented.
You can see the yellow mark is from Salt Lake City
Let me see.
to Trois-Rivières. So it's north.
So that's your route?
Yeah, that's my exact route. And show them first week.
Okay, that's the first week. Salt Lake, Evanston, Green River, Rawlins, Cheyenne, Sydney, and Nebraska.
This is what I was talking about.
Oh, 163 miles.
So my worst day was 13 miles right here. See, 13 miles. And my best, it was a bad winter, not winter, but a bad rainstorm with the wind in my face. And this one was a beautiful, sunny, hot day, and the wind was with me. And my calculation in my notes was between 20 and 30 mile an hour wind.
So that week you did 689 miles. Okay, let's go to week 2. Always took Sundays off.
Like if I click on Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Oh, then it tells your journal there.
It says...
And this is all in your book, right?
Yes, it's all in my book.
There's Laramie.
So there's Laramie. And that's higher than...
7,100 feet.
No, it was 8,000 feet.
Oh, 8,000,
it's higher than the north.
Oh, that is high. Wow.
So in Nebraska, I headed north, and I went through the Great Lakes into very dense lumber forests where they get lumber from, and then I headed for Trois-Rivières. So I went across what they called the Continental Divide, and that is where I leave the Rocky Mountains. So the Rocky Mountains basically was all of Utah and all of Wyoming. And as I got out of the Rocky Mountains in Wyoming, I was heading for the Continental Divide. And that means all water east of the Continental Divide flows eventually to go into either the Missouri River or the Mississippi River. And all waters west of the Continental Divide ends up somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. And so I was happy. So I basically had slight downhill for the next week. Not steep downhill, but you could feel the difference. I could feel the difference. And at the same time I had a south wind. In a car you wouldn't notice. No, not at all. And so I enjoyed the slight downhill, and I also had the west wind was coming more or less from the northwest. So it was kind of a westerly wind, and the way the mountains were lined up, for me it was a west wind and just blowing me down. And I was happy to get to Cheyenne. Here I got to it, and it's beautiful. I finally got into where there's beautiful pine trees and everything. And this is second week? Cheyenne is the first week still. You're still in the first week. So it's right after Rawlins to Cheyenne. And I still remember a giant blue spruce tree in front of the Capitol building there. Oh, this is when you went 163 miles in one day? Oh, yeah. When I arrived there, yeah, she's looking at it right there. And that took 12 hours and 5 minutes. Wow. And so the reason I didn't die from that is because I had a wind behind me, and it was blowing me a 20 to 30 mile an hour wind for 10 hours. And when you'd stop, you could really feel the wind. Yeah, and I did do a practice stop while I wanted to eat part of my sandwich because I was getting hungry, and all of a sudden the wind just about blows me right over. You go, that's why I'm going so fast. And I didn't realize that was the reason that I was making such good time. Yeah. So I got to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I didn't want to start looking for a Mormon church just because it was too big of a city to start doing that. I just for your sleeping? Yeah, I just wanted to rest. I said, well, what better place to sleep than under that giant spruce, blue spruce tree. And that's where and it takes me about 20 minutes, at least 20 minutes to unpack my bike and get ready to go to bed. That evening I drank mostly liquids. I didn't have a giant meal. Handwritten journal that was inside my backpack. One was 30 miles per hour with the wind, and I gained 20 to 30 miles. So the next morning when I wanted to leave Rawlins, the last of the Rocky Mountains was leaving Cheyenne and going over the Laramie Mountains. And Laramie is a city there, but it's where there's a steep climb to go up to the pass, which is...
Is this the next day?
Yeah, the next day.
Okay, next day.
And that was 8,000 feet or more, or so, just to go to the pass, where the biggest thing I'd gone up from Salt Lake City was 7,000 feet. And believe me, well, so this is probably double the altitude.
Well, so you're in the Laramie Mountains?
Okay, so in the Laramie Mountains, a guy in a pickup truck stops, and of course he's watching me, and
struggling up the hill.
Slows down and kind of pulls over and says, "Why don't you just throw your bike in the back?
I'll help you.
I'll give you a ride to the top, to the pass, the highest part." And I said, I don't want to. When people ask me about the trip, I don't want to have to say, "Well, a guy gave me a ride."
There's this one part that was really difficult.
And he looked at me like I was really weird, like, okay.
So you turned him down?
Yeah, so I turned him down.
No, I'm riding the entire way.
Okay, I do want to read this to you. It's the last paragraph on my website. It says, "When I arrived, my neck was sore, my back..."
This is day 3.
Yeah. No, day 5.
Yeah. Day 5.
Yeah, it says at the top.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
"When I arrived, my neck was sore, my back, my hands, my fingers, my shoulders, my right ankle, and my legs all hurt me. They were all sore. After I've ridden for hours and hours, if I stop pedaling, for example, while going downhill for just a short spell, my legs begin to tighten up, so that when I begin...
Cramping? Like
cramping. So when I begin pedaling again, they hurt something terrible. But after 5 minutes, they function.
Then you're fine.
Just fine."
So it's just like at the first 5 minutes, first beginning.
And yeah, and so, well, no, the first I always do it slow because I have food in my stomach, and you don't start.
And you would eat a big breakfast.
Huge.
Yeah.
And usually I do an hour or two, just kind of casually, and eventually I say, I am never going to get to Canada if I just go this speed. So I always kick it in and start trying to ride harder.
Okay.
The next stop is going to be Sydney, Wyoming.
Sydney, Wyoming. Okay.
100 miles, and that was only 9 hours and 45 minutes. If I washed my clothes, I could easily put it on my handlebars and dry them out. Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Talk about there.
Okay, day 6.
Okay, there is no freeway some of the way, just a little narrow 2-lane highway with no paved soft shoulder, just the dirt. About 1 or 2.
That's scary.
About 1 or 2 inches lower than the pavement. I had to ride Interstate 80 through Wyoming because it's the only major highway that crosses east to west on it. And I was happy because and meanwhile the daytime temperatures has jumped up to 80 to 90 degrees, and at night 40 to 50 degrees. Thunder showers expected. And it says, tonight, this is in Cheyenne, or in Sydney, I'm in a free camping area near the outskirts of Sydney. I think I'll try the North Platte. I wanted to be able to say that I slept right by the North Platte River because that was where the Mormon pioneers camped out as they're on their trip. Okay, so we're going to end today's being in Nebraska. And the first major memory I have in being in Nebraska is being pulled over by a state trooper. This is the one I'll end on. So a lot of times people, and I did have maybe a 5-foot emergency lane where they change tires and everything. But sometimes people, I get I wander because there's little rocks as you get farther to the right.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to stay close to the line so that there's less rocks.
And
there.
the truckers, when they come past you, that would kind of suck you in, didn't it?
Yeah, that's
so you have to be real careful. That's another story. Well, truckers.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to get to the part.
All right, the police part.
You want me to get moving on the story. So.
Mm-hmm. We have to keep moving.
Okay, so a lot of times people are behind me in cars and they'll be honking, and I'm off the road or very close to the line, and the honking usually meant, get out of the way, you're too close to where the cars are going, get out of the way, or why are you even riding a bicycle on the freeway, get off the freeway.
That's against the law, huh?
Yeah, and anyway, so what happened is a car pulled up behind me, and I could hear him behind me driving slowly, following me, and I said, this is getting a little
nervous,
but I didn't turn around and look back, because I was just interested in making good time. And then all of a sudden I hear a police siren. He puts his siren on.
That would scare you.
And I thought, whoa!
Did you look back then?
Oh yeah, just a quick glance back. And on his little speaker he said, pull over please.
How long were you riding before he put his siren on? Like 5 minutes?
No, not that long. Maybe 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay, 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm, you can't just drive to something and then I don't lay my bike on its side because it's got gear on it. It could start bending some of the spokes.
The railing?
No, I spraddle it and just stand there, and then I'm waiting.
You made him come to you?
I'm waiting for him to walk up to me.
Not a good idea.
And so I'm waiting. I don't turn around.
You don't make a policeman mad. Well, you probably didn't think you could do anything because you're on a bike.
No, I am not laying down my bike. It's a full pack.
Oh,
everything.
yeah, okay.
And I could start bending my wheels and lots of things.
Okay.
Okay, and so he waited for, I guess, me to get off my bike, and then he said, park your bike somewhere.
Over the intercom?
I can't remember what it was. I think by that time he just yelled it out the window. He says, and come to my vehicle.
To my vehicle.
And so I looked to the next mile marker. I went up, walked it up a little bit and leaned it against the next mile marker. And I went back and he opened his front door. And my first reaction was, oh, this is nice air conditioning. See, if it's 80 degrees and I'm pedaling full speed, I'm way heated up and it's just hot. And so we closed the door, and I'm thinking, actually, I'm kind of enjoying this. And he kind of quiet, and I guess he's waiting for me to lock eyes and start going blah 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 blah. But I didn't say anything. I just kind of glanced over at him, and he said, "I have a question. Why are you riding on an interstate highway on the freeway?" And then I gave the classic answer that classic for me. I said, the same reason these cars are on the freeway. I make better time on it than on the back roads where there's stop signs and all kinds of stuff to slow me down. And he kind of rubs his head for a second, goes, you are not allowed on the freeway. And he said, I'm going to call in and to see if you have been kicked off the freeway, and if you have been kicked off, I am taking you...
Well, you rode how far? 400 miles on the freeway without being pulled over?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So he wanted to check and make sure.
So I had already gone 500 miles.
On the freeway.
And in Nebraska, I had already gone a couple of hundred miles. And he said, where did you enter the freeway? I said, wherever Wyoming meets Nebraska. I think it was called
Because there's no way you've been riding on the freeway that long.
He says, I'm going to call in and see if you've been kicked off.
And if you've been lying...
He said, I will take you to the local judge and you will pay a fine. And I said, okay, go ahead, call.
I was going to say, I haven't been...
And so he called in.
I've been riding.
He says, I've got a rider here, 10-4, that kind of stuff. Whatever he says. Yeah, whatever he said. And then he says, okay, you have not been kicked off the freeway, but... you need to, the closest city is Hershey, which is back 12 miles.
Chocolate.
is back 12 miles, and the next city forward is about 15 miles. And he said, you are going to...
He made you go back?
He made me go back to the, quote, closest road. And I said, do you realize that if I ride back and forward, I've lost almost 3 hours of bike riding, and it throws off my whole
So you could have
schedule.
gone forward for 15 miles.
Yeah. But he forced me
Or
to go back.
But it's still illegal either way. You think he'd want you to get off quicker off the 15 mile than to go back. How many miles back?
12. I still
12.
remember it was 12.
12.
So it was shorter.
So it's shorter.
And he said, and he started pointing his finger at me, and he said, I'm going to be patrolling this part of the freeway up and down. If I see you riding towards Hershey after I leave, then you go to the judge again. And he said, and I will stop you if you don't obey me.
And take you to the judge.
And I will take you to the judge, and he will fine you accordingly.
And you don't want to do that.
No. So I rode all the way back, and I think, I'm losing 2 hours. That's a good chunk of my day. And I said that to him, but he didn't care.
He didn't care.
And
You had to get off freeway.
Yeah.
So you had to find a different way to travel other than the freeway.
No, then I had to go frontage roads, you might call it.
Yeah, frontage roads.
And there are stop signs and cars turning.
So no more 163 mile day anymore after that. Okay, we're going to end there. Now you have to remember where we end. I'll put a link below.
Okay.
So we're going to go ahead and close with a couple of quotes. And Papa,
let me know if you want me to tell you more about this.
If you want to hear more. We're only on week 1.
And we got to hurry because the red light's blinking. Okay.
Yeah, there's our battery.
Bridget Bardot.
Oh.
Each 10 years of a man's life has its own fortunes, its own hopes, its own desires. That's good.
Yeah, and his own bike ride. Okay, who can live to be 100 if you give up all the things that make you want to live to be 100? Oh, you can live to be 100 if you give up all the things that make you want to live to be 100.
What could be more beautiful than a dear old lady growing wise with age? Oh. Every age can be enchanting, provided you live within it.
That's true. Yeah, grow old gracefully. Everybody has their own beauty, and don't hide it. Just go with the flow. And remember to look for the rose, and let us know below if you'd like to hear more of the story. And keep the questions coming. We like to answer all the questions that you guys have. And thanks for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And good night, everybody.
Good night.